Okay, so here we are live once again with another Mcfarlane DC Multiverse unboxing, and this is the Scarecrow from Batman Begins. And even though it says, Batman Begins here, this logo up here says The Dark Knight. I don't know if you can make that out, but that's okay because, Dr. Crane turned up in The Dark Knight, and he pretty much looked like this when he did. So, real quick as quick as I can, before we start on this unboxing, I want to talk about something I'm rather disappointed with from McFarlane Toys, and that's that we haven't gotten a proper classic version of the Scarecrow from McFarlane. Oh, sure, they've done a few Scarecrow figures. We had the one from the Arkham video games, and we had the that weird one that was all orange and green, and they did Dr. Crane in his kind of, I don't know what you call it. I guess it was like a straight jacket kind of thing, like he wore in Batman Begins. That's probably the one that should be called the Batman Begins Scarecrow. This one should be called the Dark Knight Scarecrow, but that's neither here nor there. They did that one. I would have bought that one if I could have found it, but I never found any of the Dark Knight figures. The only ones I saw were the Jokerized versions of Two-Face and Scarecrow, and I'm not interested in Jokerized figures at all. But when I saw this one, I had to snatch him up. And I do really like this look for the Scarecrow for reasons I'll get into in a minute. But that doesn't mean that I don't still want like the classic Scarecrow in his full costume. And if McFarlane never gets around to it, I'll be very disappointed because that seems like the sort of thing that would have been right up McFarlane's alley to do. And I will be shocked that almost as shocked as the fact that we didn't get the Joker in McFarlane's Superpowers line. But let's go ahead and open them up. And my finger's kind of messed up right now, so like the cuticle is kind of like got like a hangnail thing going on. So it's kind of painful when I went to open the figure. But yeah, I've been looking forward to opening this guy for a while. I bought him at Target like a couple of months back. And then, as you might have heard me mention in some of the other videos, I accidentally mislaid the figure somewhere and like a shirt fell on top of it. And my Aunt June is here. So hi, Aunt June. Hope you're doing well this morning. Let's see. We got double rubber tabs around the torso, one double rubber tab around the lower legs. And I think that hopefully should be all the rubber tabs holding this figure in. I don't see any around the arms. So we can go ahead and get Dr. Crane out of the package. And one thing that would have made this figure really cool also is if they had given him an alternate unmasked head. I would have appreciated that. And then he's got a couple of extra hands, one of which is the one that I know I'm going to put on the figure. So go ahead and get those out real quick. And it's this kind of gesturing hand. I think that'd be a really good hand to use for the one that, where he sprays out the fear toxin. And then we have Solid Fist. So the Scarecrow first appeared during the Golden Age of comics. He made a couple of appearances. Then they didn't really seem to know what to do with the character yet, though. Basically, the gimmick of the character was that, Professor Crane was a guy who wore shabby clothes because he wanted to spend all his money on books. And the other professors at the college made fun of them, made fun of him for dressing so shabbily. So he decided to become a criminal so he could get more money to buy books. And he became the Scarecrow. And he didn't really have the fear gimmick yet. That didn't come along until like I said, he made a couple of appearances in the Golden Age, and then they brought him back during the Silver Age. And that was where somebody was smart enough to realize, hey, this guy is a Scarecrow. Why don't we make him obsessed with scaring people? And that's where the character, I kind of feel like, was really solidified. But the early Scarecrow stories were pretty good. It's just they hadn't quite figured out the whole fear thing yet. So got a typical matte black figure stand with a glossy DC logo embossed onto it. The Scarecrow did make appearances, a lot of appearances in animation, actually. And I would say up to a certain point, he was probably the character that actually had the most appearances in animation, believe it or not. because the Scarecrow first appeared in animation in the 1967, 68, 69, whatever, sometime in the 1960s, the Filmation Adventures of Batman and Robin cartoon. He first appeared in that in animated form, and then he also appeared in the Super Friends cartoon, the Challenge of the Super Friends era, in which he was a member of the Legion of Doom. And then finally, he had an appearance on the last season of Super Friends, Superpowers Team Galactic Guardians. And what is my 3D printer doing right now? It just made a funny noise. Anyway, Dr. Crane, and on that final appearance on Super Friends, he was the villain on the episode that revealed the origin of Batman. And he appeared both as Dr. Crane and as the Scarecrow, and Batman unmasked him in that episode. So I'm guessing that he never was able to capture the Scarecrow all through the time where he was the Legion in the Legion of Doom in that continuity. Crazy, huh? So yeah, considering he appeared in all those Legion of Doom episodes, and at least one episode of the 1960s Batman cartoon, and the Superpowers Team Galactic Guardians episode, I believe that he was probably the Batman villain who made the most appearances in animation before Batman the Animated Series. Once Batman the Animated Series came along, I'm sure the Joker finally overtook him. But believe it or not, the Joker only really appeared in a couple of episodes of Scooby-Doo and one episode of Super Friends, only one, and a few episodes of the various Filmation cartoons. So he would not have made as many appearances as the Joker or as the Scarecrow, because he wasn't in the Legion of Doom and didn't appear in all those episodes that the Scarecrow appeared in. The Scarecrow had more animated appearances than the Joker, at least in the pre-Batman the Animated Series era, which is crazy to think about. And in fact, I think the only villain that might have had more appearances than the Scarecrow out of Batman's entire rogues gallery in animation would have been the Riddler, because the Riddler would have been on all those same Challenge of the Super Friends episodes, and I believe he had one additional episode that he was in somewhere. I think it's in the DVD collection that's called Super Friends Volume, or yeah, Volume 2 or Season 2. You can find it on Amazon, I believe. But yeah, so after doing all those appearances in animation, he also appeared on one of the Power Records, the Scarecrow's Mirage, as well. And he actually has had a pretty significant career in outside media, just because of being in Challenge of the Super Friends. Senov is here, and he says that Scarecrow is probably the most lethal Batman character out of his rogues gallery, with Poison Ivy. Yeah, like they're both pretty formidable foes, aren't they? So yeah, so the Scarecrow did also appear on Batman the Animated Series on quite a few episodes, and went through quite a few redesigns. The final one in the new Batman Adventures being the creepiest, and there was voiced by Jeffrey Combs, and I really enjoyed his appearance in that. Those are some really good episodes. He's in a couple of episodes in there, and one of them, God, what was the name of it? The one where Batgirl dies. Of course, it turns out it's a fake out. She doesn't die. Spoiler warning. What was that? What was the name of that episode? Really good one, and I'm drawing a blank on its name. Anyway, the Scarecrow, of course, being one of the more prominent Batman villains, he was going to have another appearance in live. His first appearance in live action was originally going to be what would have been the fifth of the 1990s cycle of Batman movies, Batman Triumphant, back when Joel Schumacher was still going to be directing that movie. And I guess that was one of the few things that stuck around from that draft of the screenplay on to when they finally made the fifth Batman live action movie, which turned out to be Batman Begins. Aunt June says Scarecrow is a weird character. Oh, he's a super weird character. Now I know, Aunt June, that you watched the Batman cartoon that was on Netflix. I don't remember if the Scarecrow was on that, but if he was, I can imagine they would have done a good job with him. I do remember that Hugo Strange was a character on that show, and the funny thing is that Fear Gas actually predates the Scarecrow in Batman comics because Hugo Strange invented the Fear Gas in the Golden Age comics. So he was using Fear Gas at a time that the Scarecrow still wasn't. But the Scarecrow did make it, like I said, into the fifth live action Batman movie as one of the villains in that, working for Rish Al Ghul or Raz Al Ghul, or however they want to say it in the Nolan movies. Someone says Scarecrow is actually quite tame compared to the other Batman villains. Yeah, well, I mean, like, he's more about the psychological aspects of it. I don't think Scarecrow's into killing people. I mean, he has killed people and probably will kill people again, but he's more about the mental torment than anything else. I think and even then, it's like a scientific thing. He's more sort of fascinated with it than anything else. So that's what I think makes the Scarecrow kind of interesting, is that he's not really a killer necessarily, like the Riddler. Like, I don't think the Riddler. This is part of the reason I didn't like the one in the Robert Pattinson movie. The Riddler probably shouldn't really be a killer. The Riddler should be someone who's more about, like, mentally going up against the Batman and proving that he's the smarter guy. Aunt June says, I don't remember, but I know that Scarecrow was on Gotham on Netflix. Oh, I didn't know you watched Gotham. I didn't know you'd watched that show. So, but yeah, I do remember seeing him pop up in at least one episode of Gotham that I saw, but I haven't seen the whole show yet. But yeah, I do remember him popping up in the first season, I think. So yeah, Scarecrow was played by Cillian Murphy, who actually did audition to play Batman himself, but he didn't get the part. Of course, it went to Christian Bale, but uh, Christopher Nolan was so impressed by his audition that he decided to offer him the role of Scarecrow instead. Sanoff says, I found Zaz, Mad Hatter, and Professor Pig the most insane, and then says, Gotham is great. I only got up to season 3 so far. Hugo was great. Oh, yeah, I remember B.D. Wong. He played Hugo Strange on Gotham, and I thought that was excellent casting. Like, I thought that I'm like, oh, he's gonna nail it. But I saw it, like I said, I still haven't gotten around to seeing those episodes yet. So I would like to see those. I am a pretty big fan of Hugo Strange. He's a character that I really like. So yeah, Cillian Murphy came in and played the Scarecrow in that, and wound up playing the Scarecrow in all 3 of the Nolan trilogy. Although it's much smaller parts in the Dark Knight and the Dark Knight Rises, but like, as far as being an actor goes, there's really no such thing as a small part. They're only small actors. And Cillian Murphy is a great actor, so he did a fantastic job with even, like, the little amount of screen time that he had in the second and third installments in Nolan's trilogy. But yeah, this is a great looking figure. Like I said, it would have been even cooler if he had like an unmasked Cillian Murphy head. I might have to see if there's one I can 3D print or something. I know I saw a head of him as Oppenheimer, but I'd kind of like him to have glasses and not have a hat. So I don't know if that one would work, but maybe I could rework it. Who knows? So looking at the figure, he's got these bell-bottom pants, and I never noticed his pants legs in the movie. So I don't know how accurate that is to the movie or not. And the jacket itself is kind of like seems a little awkward to me for some reason, but that fits the character. Coming back to what I was talking about before. Cillian Murphy says, yeah, he would have made Sanoff says he would have made a good Doom, but RDJ is more of a moneymaker. Yeah, Cillian Murphy would have. I haven't thought about that. He would have been a great Doctor Doom. Like, I always thought Mads Mikkelsen would have been a great Doctor Doom, but they kind of already wasted him in the first Doctor Strange movie, and I'm like, dude, you should have saved him for Doom. He would have been awesome. Anyway, but yeah, going back to that first Scarecrow story that I was talking about before, where Dr. Crane was mocked by his fellow college professor for his shabby clothes. The his appearance in The Dark Knight was, kind of a shabby looking suit that was frayed at the shoulders and things like that. And this kind of captures that feel. I kind of think this is probably like a suit they used for something else, and but I don't know exactly what. But it works for the Scarecrow, I think, because it's that kind of with the ill-fitting sort of look, and you can see like they've got like dirt on his shoulders, so it's not a very clean suit. And also, there's like kind of a pinstripey kind of texture to the pants, so it's like a pants that don't quite match the jacket, and all this other stuff. This probably would have been actually a really good body to use for the Joker if they wanted to do the Joker's appearance in the Joker's five-way revenge, like a Neil Adams type Joker. I think that probably would have worked really well for that. Maybe I'll have to get an extra one of these bodies and use it for that, or try to make it into a more classic Scarecrow, since McFarlane has let me down on that so far. And yeah, McFarlane, you've got like 11 months left, going almost 10 now. We're about to that point where you can still do me a classic Scarecrow. You might have a little bit of time. I'll wait and see what you do. But let's go ahead and talk about his articulation. So the Scarecrow's head, of course, rotates all the way around. You can look up about that far, look down about that far, tilt his head kind of quizzically from side to side. Not a whole lot of range of movement, because of course he does have that Scarecrow mask that's basically a burlap sack tied around his head, and the lower part of it is going to kind of interfere with the movement somewhat. Of course, he can rotate his arms all around his shoulders. They do seem to have like a little bit of a butterfly joint kind of thing going on, but there's no spacer in there because the jacket kind of fills in for the spacer. The bicep, got a bicep cut, rotates all the way around. He's got double jointed elbows. That's about the range of motion you get at the elbows. He's got those cool McFarlane wrist articulations, so those rotate all the way around, and you can pretty much move those around any which way you want to because they work out so well. Senov asks, is Batman Begins your favorite out of the Dark Knight trilogy? I don't know, man. That's like asking me like who my favorite kid is. I love all those movies. I kind of feel like I'm gonna swap out this hand. I kind of feel like that. In a weird way, like I think most people would probably agree that the Dark Knight is probably the best one. And I think maybe in terms of like if you're just talking like pure quality filmmaking, yeah, that probably is the best one. But I kind of feel like it's also like the least comic booky of them. I kind of feel like Batman Begins has a little bit more of a comic booky sort of feel to it, and then it kind of brings it back again with the Dark Knight. And if you're like me and you're a big fan of Batman the Cult, there's the story by Jim Starlin and Bernie Wrights, and there's a lot of the influence of Batman the Cult in that movie that I really enjoy. Not to mention No Man's Land. Speaking of which, we got the No Man's Land Batman. That's going to be my next episode, I think. Yeah, that's going to be the one that I'm going to do next. Is No Man's Land Batman. I'm excited about opening up that one. But yeah, like so it's really hard for me to pick because I've got the one that feels kind of like Batman Begins is the one that also kind of feels the most sort of like the Tim Burton Batman movies, if that makes any sense. Like he was like Nolan was still kind of trying to play it safe a little bit and give us like a Tim Burton type of Batman, but still like a Nolan style of Batman. And then Dark Knight was like his true Nolan Batman movie. And then like I think the third one, he just kind of wanted to pull out all the stops and do like the biggest, most epic type of movie he could with Batman. And yeah, they're all great. I love them all. And I know a lot of people like crap on Dark Knight Rises, but I love Dark Knight Rises. I can't crap on it. I do think that one probably is the one that's the most fun for me to watch, if that makes any sense. But they're all great. I love them all. So where was I? Oh yeah. So Scarecrow does have some good articulation under the jacket. I can't tell exactly how that works, but I can tell that like You see, I can smush him in. He's really skinny there. He's got like a really narrow waist. He doesn't have like an ab section in the same way that most figures do. If I wanted to take him apart, I'm sure I could figure out how it works, but I don't want to take him apart. Not on the video anyway. But uh, but yeah, Scarecrow can kick up about that far, so he can do his weird dancing like he does in the comics, where like his fighting is almost like a style of dancing. How he thinks of that, so that's kind of cool. He's got double jointed knees. That's about the range of motion you get at the knees, and like I said, he's got these funky bell bottoms. So foot can point down about that far, point up about that far, and rotates all the way around where the ankle meets the shin and where the ankle meets the foot. But those bell bottoms are kind of going to kind of interfere with it. I wonder if he shares some parts with the Joaquin Phoenix Joker figure, which is way too expensive, so I didn't buy it. But it kind of feels like these legs would work really well for the Joaquin Phoenix version of Joker. You know what I mean? Sanoff says, "All right, you have a good one. I gotta go. Bye. Well, you have a good night too. Thanks for stopping by. Good talking with you." So, so yeah, that's pretty much it for the articulation. I think it's a well articulated figure considering how he's a guy in a suit. McFarlane is really good about that. So, was there anything else that I wanted to talk about with oh, I still need to read the trading card. I almost forgot to read the trading card. So let's go ahead and do that. There's the same artwork that we had on the back of the box. I don't think I showed that off either. Let's have a look at that. Where'd I put that box? There we go. See, I'm used to the movie figures having like a photograph of the character from the movie, but instead it's got this illustration. And it says, that's what the back looks like. And it reads, Scarecrow, Batman Begins, real name Jonathan Crane. As a young child, Jonathan Crane was subjected to sick and twisted experiments on fear conducted by his own father. Emotionally scarred and mentally unstable from the ordeal, Crane spent his childhood living in fear until he made an important realization. If he could control fear, it would never again control him. Yes. Over time, this interest in fear became an obsession. Graduating from college with a doctorate in fear and a doctorate in psychology and specialty in phobias, Jonathan began experimenting with others, subjecting them to a hallucinogenic fear toxin that he developed and that brought on their own worst nightmares. So that's a really good bio for Jonathan Crane. And I gotta say though, it is one that, and you see this a lot with the movie bios, it's like it's not really very specific to anything that happened in the movie. This could work just as well for like a bio of the comic book version. I'm not familiar with some of these elements, so I figure like a lot of them come from later, like New 52 and later comics that I haven't read. But but most of it tracks, I think. So I'm gonna go ahead and set that aside. And that's pretty much it for the trading card. So he's a really cool looking figure. I like a lot of the paint details, like the dust about his shoulders and everything like that. He's really nice and creepy. Got a lot of good detail to the mask with the sculpting and the painting. They did a great job with that, and you can see those blue Cillian Murphy eyes staring out of them. One of the things that I really liked about the way they did the mask in the movie is sometimes it would just completely shadow over the eyes, but except for you'd still see that little bit of blue peeking out. It was really creepy. I like the way that that worked. And like I said, Cillian Murphy, great actor, so he was fantastic in the role. So yeah, I would say that the movie version of Jonathan Crane that we saw there is probably one of the best versions of the character. And even though we never really saw him in the classic Scarecrow costume, but this is a good look too. I like it. And basically Nolan had to have his arm twisted to even put the Scarecrow's mask on him. David Goyer was like, "No, you got to have the Scarecrow with the mask. You can't not have the mask." So, but there we go. Anyway, that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure that you like and subscribe and all the fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the Scarecrow, both this figure and the character in general, and what your favorite version of the Scarecrow is, and which one you thought was the scariest. So I have a long-term goal as far as comic book collecting goes, is that I wanted to have every issue of Batman, the first volume of Batman, from issue number 200, which is the first issue that Neil Adams worked on. He did the cover, and my copy is autographed by Neil Adams. But yeah, I wanted to have every issue of Batman from number 200 on to when the original series ended with the new 52, where the original numbering ended. I think they went back to the regular numbering at some point, but I don't count that. No, you guys started over again with a number one. You don't get to come back right before you hit issue number 900 or whatever it was. That doesn't count. So yeah, I wanted to have all those issues. And who's the villain in issue number 200 of Batman? None other than Jonathan Crane, the Scarecrow himself. And they retell Batman's origin. It's a great story. Neil Adams, unfortunately, does not do the interior artwork. It's somebody who was like a new look era Batman artist. Pretty decent art, but no Neil Adams. But yeah, so the Scarecrow does have a special place in my heart as being the guy who's the villain in my first issue of Batman in my complete run. Now, I do have earlier issues of Batman before that, like I have the one with Bat Baby. My complete run is going to start with 200. Once I can finally complete it, there's still a few issues here and there that I'm missing. But anyway, yeah, we'll be back next episode with the No Man's Land version of Batman. And we're going to talk about the differences between that one and my personal favorite Mcfarlane Batman figure. If you've been watching this show for a while, you know the one I'm talking about, the Norm Brayfogle Batman figure. Perfection. Such a great figure. So I'm going to be comparing the No Man's Land figure to that one, and we'll see which one comes out on top. I'm guessing it's probably still going to be that Brayfogle figure. I mean, if we're being real about it. But anyway, that's it for this episode. I got to go get some sleep now. I'm really tired. So we'll talk to you later. Bye.